He's an introvert, interviewing strangers from the internet, knocking down the walls of his comfort zone, one conversation at a time. This is the Gary Cantrell Podcast.
The Gary Cantrell Podcast, May the 13th, 2020. How's it going, everybody? So glad to have you back here for yet another show, another week. And thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking to my old pal, John Krauser. More on him in a moment. But first, I'm going to tell you about my Patreon podcast producers. And they are Caitlin at Caitlin Elise. That's 3 Y's in her name. 3 times is awesome. Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey. Amanda at Mutts_Ann_Miles. And Morgan at DDPY Mama. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell is the place to go to get your podcast 5 days early. That's right. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, in 2 days it's Friday, and you get your brand new podcast then 192 kilobits per second, higher quality, exclusive RSS feeds, 25% discount at the hardworkalwayswins.com merch store, and more. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. Also, before we get this podcast going, want to tell you about Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to me on an Apple device and looking at the stats, it's about 65% of you. I would love if you take a moment just to check out the ratings, leave a review, tell me what you like about the show, and why somebody should check it out. And if that all sounds good, we're going to go ahead and get this podcast started. Let me tell you about my pal, John Krauser. We go back to 2007. Yes, our friendship dates back that far. He was the very first co-host of my very first internet radio show called The Shoot way back when. And we've been off and on pals for the last 13 years. We met in 2011 face-to-face, which was really awesome. And we've always checked on each other here and there. And he has had some weight loss success. He's making all kinds of moves with his sketch comedy. So I'm really excited for you guys to check it out. And we'll get him on the show here. Let's go ahead and dial John up. John.
Hey, dude, what's going on?
How are you, man?
Oh, good. I'm sitting in my recliner finally. I'm just sitting back a bit.
Just relaxing, taking it all in?
Yeah, well, it just, today was like long, but, I was working from home and it just felt long. So I'm glad to be done.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. Now, where's home? Are you still in Illinois?
Yeah, I'm still in the Chicago area.
Nice. Now, this is a little bit of a different podcast from what you and I are used to, and just to catch people up very quickly, John was a former co-host of my old radio show known as The Shoot. You were, in fact, the first co-host that I ever had.
Yeah, didn't you found me on like one of those old message boards, right? Was that where you found me? It was.
I want to say now my memory is a little bit sketchy, but I want to say you found me actually.
Oh, that might have been a thing. I think I was leaving BWR with Brett of Berg Wrestling Radio, and I was looking for something new.
Yes.
And I don't know how I don't know how I found you.
It would have had to have been MySpace, because that's where I did a majority of my promoting for the show in those days, which I know we're really dating both of ourselves, because I think you're a little bit younger than me, right? I'm 37. You're a little bit younger?
I just turned 30 last June, so I'm about to be 31.
Okay, yeah, you're a youngin'. But yeah, so MySpace though, I mean, we're dating both of ourselves here, but I used to go around and randomly friend people, because back in the day, that's how it worked. Nowadays, like things like Instagram, you follow somebody, they might follow you back. On MySpace, if you send a friend request, somebody had to accept it. I mean, they didn't have to accept it, but that's generally how it worked. And then I was staying up till like 4 o'clock in the morning every night and basically cold messaging as many people as I could find. And I'm pretty damn sure that you probably got a message from me first, followed by a friend request, and then at some point I posted a MySpace bulletin. Yes, a MySpace bulletin. And I want to say then you reached out. I think that's how it went.
Yeah, I would agree, most likely. And that seems like it was so long ago. Like, it
Yes.
just doesn't it blow your mind that like just how the years fly over time? That was over a decade ago, I think. That was, or close to a decade, a little bit over.
13
I don't
years
remember.
this April.
Oh my gosh, what happened to us?
But you were doing it. You were doing it before that. I mean, you started with BWR in what, 04, 05, somewhere in there.
It was 2004. Yeah, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, about 2004. Yeah, I started listening, and then I got on there, like during trivia contests. Then eventually I made my way to like the third unofficial co-host of the show.
Yeah.
So it was a slow progression, and then I faked my death on there. Well, I didn't fake my death; someone else faked my death. That was a different time. The whole aspect of the world was so different at that time. Like, I'm so glad that some of those shows don't exist, because some of the things other people said when I was on there was very questionable. And
dude, I've listened to a lot of my old shows, and I'm like, okay, Gary, I know you didn't just say that.
well, people change. You know, you're young, you're dumb, you don't know better.
Well, that's
most people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've come out many times on this podcast and other formats where I've said, look, I used to be a much different person, a very negative person, a very hateful person at times, and life just changes you, man. You deal with different experiences and you evolve as a person. And as long as you can evolve and learn and just kind of grow as a human being, I think that, you know, down the road, you're going to be all right.
Yeah. It's just, you're young and you grow over time, just like you said. The show BWR was a blast. I had a lot of, and I was in high school. So like that, the aspect of it was called internet radio back then. It wasn't even called podcasting. We called it internet radio. This is back in the day of, Blog Talk Radio. Even I was around before Blog Talk. I was around before Blog. It was Live 365. We were doing shows on.
Yeah.
Whenever and we didn't do a lot of live shows. It was a few a year. Everything else was pre-recorded. It was a guy in California, a guy in Florida, me in Chicago. And the dude in Cali had a microphone, and he put it next to the speakerphone, and that's how we did our shows.
That is literally insane. But it's cool, though. I mean, you were on the cutting edge of technology. And I mean, I always thought to myself that even in 2007, I felt like I was on the cutting edge of technology. But like you really were, like you were doing it on a very, you know, early preliminary stage for wrestling podcasts. I mean, I would probably say, without knowing the history of BWR, I would guess that you guys are probably one of like maybe the first 10 wrestling podcasts in existence.
Yeah, we were. I
don't
remember. It was like, you know, Wade Keller was around, like some of those people. But I didn't really listen to too much of the other stuff because I didn't know it existed, most likely. Like, and I'm young. I'm not going seeking out like internet radio. Like, I'll do the show and then I'll go. I'm in high school. Like, I'm trying to live my life.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like there was this In Your Head show. There was Monday Night Mayhem, which God, I don't know why. I never even knew those guys, but I just like loathe them, I guess, because they had got way bigger guests than I ever did. And then there was like this other show, The Dark Match, and there was Daily Suplex and all these shows. I remember.
Yeah.
It was a fun time. But I mean, you know, the thing too, and we'll get, you know, for people that are listening that maybe are not big wrestling, we're gonna get into John's story. I want to talk. We're gonna go a million different directions, but you got me in a place right now where I'm just like, man, we got to reminisce. So, you know, 2007, it was definitely an interesting time. You reached out to me. We got you on the show. You suggested, oh God, I think it was like Steve-O and Bart Gunn for SummerSlam or something. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what have I gotten myself into?
I still have I have the same humor. Like, I haven't really changed. I don't know. I think obscure references that no one really understands is really funny.
Yes.
Like, only like a certain few people will understand. I'm like, why'd you bring up that name? Like who talks about like Kenzo Suzuki's coming to WrestleMania this year? Like, who would know any of this stuff? Like, yeah, I don't know. I have an odd sense of humor, and I still do.
Well, here's the weird thing too, because I know that, you know, in September of that year, we kind of had a parting of the ways, and I'm glad that we are able to talk now, obviously, and we even met back in 2011. We can talk about all that, but it's really weird because you had a unique sense of humor and you kind of had like this goofy personality. And when I first started the show, I was trying to be very serious, but then like it turns out that later on, I ended up doing like all these bits on the show, and it's like, goddamn, if John would have come in my life like a year later, we probably could have done good business.
Well, we were still early on. You remember the Cameron storyline? We were doing that to Nick Malone, but I feel like that was
Nick
early
Malone.
in the show. Poor Nick Malone. He follows me on Twitter still. I haven't talked to him, but he follows me on Twitter.
He's married with a kid, man. This guy, he's living his life. I love it.
Good for him. Yeah, he was a co-host of ours. He was a co-host. I don't remember how he came around.
I can explain that. So I put out the bulletin for a co-host. Mm-hmm. There was a girl that responded, not Michelle, but there was this other girl, and I wrote back to her. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then I never heard anything back. There was you, and then there was Nick Malone. But it was weird because I had Nick on there, and I didn't like the way his phone sounded. So I'm like, I got to get this guy out of here. But I didn't have the guts to break it down to him gently. And then so I brought you on. Then I'm like, okay, well, you had like some summer camp or something. So I'm like, okay, great. On the weeks John's gone, I can get Nick in. And I tried to have my cake and eat it too, basically. And it just didn't work out. I mean, it was not ideal. But I think we did like 2 or 3 shows, like all 3 of us together.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. And you were doing bits back then. I just don't think you probably didn't really enjoy them.
No.
Like maybe you were just trying to keep up with me,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because you talk about we did have a falling out because I was young and immature. I wanted to do something silly because BWR was all silly. It was all bit. It was all stick.
Right.
We barely had any serious discussions on wrestling. It was all just characters and storyline. And I don't think you knew what you were getting into when I came around.
No, I did not.
So I don't hold what grudge whatsoever. Like I get it. I think back then I was annoyed because I had this odd ego that I shouldn't have even had, because BWR was popular and I'm like, who is this guy to do this to me? Like, but we were looking for 2 different things that I don't think we both understood that at the time.
Yeah. I think if I had gone on the same trajectory, only, maybe I didn't have another co-host by that point, and then you came along, we probably could have done some wild shit because the thing about it is when Alan came in the thing, like he was kind of like, and I love him. I actually just interviewed him for this podcast last week. And nice. So, I love him, but he's kind of a different guy. He's more chill and relax. And so I was telling him.
He hated me.
Yeah,
he hated me.
Well, he just he has his. I don't think he actually like genuinely hated you. I think it was just more like he didn't understand you. And so like I remember like I tried to do all these bits and I would not clue him in on what I was doing. I would just do them just to try to get a reaction out of the guy because I felt like he no-sold so much of what I did. He's like, yeah. And so I tried to like, do stuff to pop him and it most of the time it did not work. It fell on deaf ears. But yeah, if we had come across maybe a year later, I think we could have done some crazy business, man.
Man, we would have. You did, not to jump around a lot, but when I did some other stuff down the years, you would come on as King Marty. Remember King Marty?
Man, what in the hell, man? Come on, man.
Stop! That's probably one of my favorite characters in any podcast I did. Gary would call in as King Marty.
Yes.
And I think it was called Thunder Vision.
Yes.
And I had my best friend, who I'm still best friends with, Russ. He played a guy named Doc Bronson on the show.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this, but he thought you were a real person for a long time. I never told him that I knew you when you were Gary.
Yeah.
He thought you were playing a real guy. He's like, is King Marty real? I'm like, yeah, for all I know. I don't know anything about him. Like, I sold that for like a year to him until we were done. And I'm like, King Marty isn't real.
Oh, my God. I love it, man. It seems like we were doing the same thing. Like, we're working our co-hosts.
Yeah, we were. Gary would come on as this guy. He's like, I saw Def Leppard for $10. That's all he would talk about is these concerts.
Do you still have any of those shows? Are they still up on Blog Talk somewhere?
Yeah, they're on Blog Talk. You can go listen to them. I listen to them sometimes just to get a laugh. I have you and my buddy Andy, who played Ooter, always going back and forth. And you call it Tuda. Tuda, huh?
Tuda.
Like you guys would have like trivia contests and you both get the answers wrong.
Oh my God. You know what though? One of my favorite things was so back in the day, one of my favorite ways, and I'm not proud of this, but one of my favorite ways to get attention for the shoot was to try to talk shit about another radio show that had no idea who I was. And the idea was, could I get them to talk about me on their show? So what do? I called John. Hey, John, there's this show. And my favorite one that comes to mind was these poor guys, the Sharpshooter Radios. This guy.
I know that.
Yeah, this guy, I think his name was Brian. He lived in Canada. And there's this other guy, Martin, who lived in Detroit. And I said, John, would you call into these guys and just ask them if they've ever heard of the show? And somehow, like, you talked to them and you said, yeah, have you ever heard of these guys? And they're like, no, maybe they're great or something. Like, they were like all about it. And then like, you're like, yeah, I think they suck. And then somehow you turn them like immediately like, oh yeah, the shoot, man, they're boring, man. They'll put you to sleep. And like, I'm just sitting here recording all this audio and cutting drops to play on the next show so I can go all in on them. But that was the idea. It was the same thing with YouTube that I did like a year or two later. Like, I would like literally play audio of a YouTuber. I would create a fake account on YouTube, send them a message back when you could send DMs on YouTube. Hey, I heard this radio show was talking shit about you. And then they'd make a video like that guy Gemini who had like thousands of subs. Like, he started like blowing up my spot and we had like thousands of people listen because I talked smack about him. I got his attention and he started talking about it. It was crazy.
I still talk to Gemini. Remember I used to do YouTube? I'm in touch with Gemini.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We got reconnected a couple years ago. I want to say we almost met at one of the Manias. Maybe it was Dallas. And somebody else, maybe it was Cameron or Richie Drake, as he's known to everybody, who actually ran in. He was like, oh, yeah, I seen Gemini. I was like, no shit. And I didn't even get to see him. But, yeah, that was wild, man.
Yeah.
You remember the Iceman?
Yes. I remember Iceman, that old guy.
Yeah. Fuck
yeah,
you.
Yeah. I tell people this all the time because I kind of transitioned from the podcasting stuff to YouTube.
Right.
And within like a year, I have like 1,000 subscribers. And back then, this is when YouTube was brand new. 1,000 was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like I was like freaking out. I'm like, I got 1,000 subscribers. I was like so happy. And then the scale of it now, it's like 1,000 is nothing.
Yeah, dude, this will make you laugh though. I remember this. I don't think I may have never told you this. And if I did, then you'll just know. But you and we finally got to meet in November of 2011, the Survivor Series, Rockin' John Cena versus The Miz and R-Truth. We spent the whole day together. Now, you had a buddy with you who goes on YouTube by Binoxide.
Yes.
So a whole year and a half before, he was one of the guys we featured on the shoot, just talking shit about. And I tried to DM him, and I think he replied back like, I'm just not worried about it. Like, he totally no-sold it, which was fine. Probably better off. But I remember we met, and I'm like, oh, shit. This is a guy I fucking buried on my show.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
And I actually really didn't mind his videos, but I noticed that he had a lot of views. So I'm like, oh, yeah, of course we're going to trash him to see if he'll talk about us. And,
dude, you and I, we're so similar because I started YouTube by trolling wrestling people. Like I would go on videos and call them fat losers, and here I was, overweight and fat. Like it was like, yeah, that's how I did it. That's how I got attention. And guys like, the Wrestling Jesus, who he is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, people like him got attention. Wrestling Jesus saw that I was doing a character, hit me up, and then we just started being characters back and forth to each other. And that's how I got all this like I would go to WrestleManias with this big group of YouTubers who became friends of mine. Monoxide was in there, and people would know who I am. Like, they're like, oh, Johnny Thunder, I love your videos, man. And it was surreal. Like, it was like people were taking pictures of me in arenas.
Oh my God. You're worldwide known. You're famous.
Well, back then, maybe to 1,000 people. Yeah. They all happened to be at the same place.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's crazy. And it's funny because you were going to a lot of these manias in the late 2000s, early 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start going until 2013, and then like I don't know, you haven't been to one since. Like what was it, like Miami maybe?
No, I've been to a few recently. The last actual Mania I went to was the recent New Orleans one. I was there for that.
Oh, I wasn't there for that. I missed that one. I was in Orlando and New York and Dallas.
Yeah, I was in New York, but I didn't stay for Mania. I did NXT because I can't sit through WrestleMania anymore live.
Yeah.
Because it's too long and those seats are uncomfortable. No, I'll do NXT and I'll go home Sunday morning and I'll watch Mania with friends on my couch.
Oh, my God.
I've been to so many. You go to so many, it just kind of loses its luster, you know?
I've actually told Richie Drake that. I'm like, dude, like, let's just go for the weekend and we'll leave on Sunday. We'll get home by the time. We'll just watch it at home. And he's like, what, are you crazy? I'm like, no, I'm not.
No, it's fine. You go to NXT, you have a blast, you know? You do all the stuff around it, and then you go home and watch it at home. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Why would you want to sit through a 7-hour show?
I don't know why anybody would want to sit through a 7-hour show in the stadium.
I have trouble sitting on the couch watching that. Like I'm not going to be there and have to worry about getting out and parking. And no, screw that.
Dude, I know. It's just crazy. But, you know, I'll tell you what, man, back in those days, we had a lot of fun, and it's definitely a time that I will always remember. My only regret also is that it was on Blog Talk. It's not on something like this where it actually sounds good and you can actually hear everything. We were on phones. We were calling into toll-free 800 numbers to talk to each other.
Yeah, entering your passcode. Like,
oh my God.
Get on the right line.
I remember towards the end of your run, like your very first run on the show, we used to go past the regular time. We'd like prank call people. You'd call us like Luigi and Mario and Santina and all this stuff. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I remember we called one of my buddy's brothers and he was so mad. He was like legit, like he had big time heat with us.
Good.
Oh my God. You were like,
Good.
This is Santina Morella.
It's not as bad as BWR. We would actually prank call wrestlers because we had a bunch of their numbers.
I know. I remember getting a few of those numbers. You know, the only one that ever materialized was Mean Gene. I remember you gave me his number, but it wasn't until like 2 years after you gave it to me. I was dating a girl at the time, and I kept trying to call him, and he would never return my call. Sure enough, she calls him, and I had him on the very next week. Like, it was amazing how that works out.
We used to call him like every other week, ask what he was doing, and he would just talk to us.
No kidding.
Yeah. We'd be like, are you watching Survivor Series? He's like, no, I'm watching the Western channel. And he would go, he didn't know who we were. He would go into detail about this Western he was watching. And then he'd be like, okay, have a good day. And I'm like, what just happened? Like,
now, is that the guy that you guys would talk to the most, or was there like somebody that you like talked to regularly and had like a good rapport with?
Well, good rapport. We had Jeremy Borash was on our show a whole lot until we pissed him off.
What did you do to make him mad?
I think the German character, Sanford Gump, that we had on the show, who was obsessed with sex and sex with men and all this homoerotica stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, is that the right word to say? I don't know. I hope it is.
Yeah.
But he was just like very, very vulgar, and he would leave Jeremy Borash these dirty messages about how he wants to like have sex with.
Oh my God.
Because we heard from SoCal Val that Jeremy Borash wore like leopard skin condoms.
Oh my God.
So Sanford would always call him up and like just leave these voicemails, and so eventually Borash blocked us and didn't want to talk to us anymore.
I literally forgot that name, Sanford Gump, until you mention it. Now I cannot forget that name. I just remember it now.
The German Kaiser. He was pretty wild. We would he prank called the Sandman. He would leave voicemails for RVD all the time. Like
I remember I was like blowing you up to like prank call some of these wrestlers, and we tried a few of them, but all we got was, you know, it just rang and rang and rang, and once in a while we get a voicemail.
RVD had different voicemails every few weeks, from what I remember. I kept calling him, leaving voicemails, asking where my son was. It was very, very bad.
Oh my God.
Told you the stuff we did back then. I regret it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I do too. There's a lot of people back in those days that I just talk smack about, and I kind of worked myself into a shoot, going off on these people, and I definitely feel bad about it now. I'm just like, you know what? I was younger, I was stupid, I had a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
I was doing anything I could to get attention, to try to get the show notoriety. And here's what happened. I mean, at the end result was you'd get a bunch of people to listen to like one given show if the attraction was that big and you could get people in there, but like they were not coming back every week. There was just different people that would pop in for certain shows. Or that's the thing with guests too. Like, I tried the whole model where it was like, okay, let me try to get some big guests. And it's like, people will come in for the guests, but they won't stay for the other shows. And that's one of the things a lot of these other podcasts had issues with. It's like, they were all guest heavy because that was the only way they could keep the download numbers up. Nobody was buying into the people that were actually hosting the show. And then after a while, Alan and I, we tried to just play it straight, and it just didn't get us anywhere. So I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Let's go back to being crazy again. I had like, all these problems with all these different radio hosts and all this other stuff. And it was madness, man.
I think back then the whole Howard Stern model of shock jock just was working on every level.
Yep.
I mean, BWR was never that good of a show, but it was just shock value. Like the stuff people would say would be like, whoa, what did he just say? Like,
yeah.
We had no real substance. It was just a bunch of characters just talking, and we were getting like thousands of downloads without a guest. Like no guest, we'd get thousands.
It's crazy.
It was surreal. Yeah. I look back at that and I'm like, if I would have kept up, if I wouldn't have stopped doing my YouTube stuff, where would I be now? If I didn't just stop it.
That's huge right there, what you just said, because I think about that all the time. I'm like, okay, what if I stuck to one thing back when I started in 2007 and never stopped? Like, where would I be now? Like, I watch all these other podcasts that just explode, and I'm like, I was there early. You were there early.
Yeah, that could have been us, Gary.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
We dropped the ball.
We did drop the ball. It blows my mind. It's like, man, if that doesn't tell you to pick a goal and stick with it, I don't know what will. And now 3 years into doing this podcast, I'm like, okay, I'm not giving this up for nothing. I put my name on it, and I'm like, all right, we're sticking with it, and we're gonna stick to our guns. So, I think that we'll find our way. It's like, you got to fall down enough times and get back up to learn like where you really need to be.
Yeah, I know. I think you and I are kind of in the same spot in life now where we kind of find something we love to do, and we're just sticking to it, after all these years.
Definitely. And I want to hear all about that, but you know what? We should go back to the beginning. This is one thing that we never got to do when we worked together, because it was just, hey, who are you? Where are you from, and what have you done? And you gave me all that, but let's do this proper, man. So, were you born and raised in Chicago?
Yeah, in a little suburb called Schaumburg, Illinois.
Right.
About 30 minutes from the city on a train. Like you can hop on a train and get out there in 30, 40 minutes, depending on traffic. You can get there about the same time. But the Chicago suburbs are very big and very large. There's a lot of them.
Right.
But I was born in one of the farther ones, enough away from the city where we don't have city life, but close enough where I can just go if I want.
And this is near where they had the AEW stuff, right?
AEW was in Hoffman Estates. I was born in Schaumburg, moved to Hoffman Estates when I was like 3. So that show was like right in my backyard. That's
wild. So you grew up there in Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates. What was your childhood like?
I up and down, I guess. I have a lot of happy memories and a lot of unhappy memories, but I think that's like that with everybody.
Right. What sticks out to your mind? Like, what's kind of like popping to the top of your mind when you're thinking about, growing up?
Couple things. One, my dad wasn't in the picture. He left very early on. He actually would call into the shoot sometimes. I don't know if you knew that.
What?
So, all right. My dad and I never met him. In my early 20s, he reached out to me and we started talking but I still had a lot of resentment towards him.
Yes.
But because he was on my Facebook, he would call into the show here and there. He just wouldn't say who he was.
Wow.
Like we had guests sometimes. I just never knew who he was until he told me, like, down the line, like, that was me. I called in just to talk to you. And it's like, just to jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
I had this moment where I forgave him for leaving. He's not a good person. He's not a nice person. He's like a massive liar about everything.
Yes.
But I called him and I said, look, I forgive you for what you did. I don't want to hold that bitterness in me anymore. And he was appreciative. And then he made up some more stuff. And then I'm like, okay, I said my piece. I don't really have to talk to you all the time.
Man, you're taking me to a place right now, because I don't know if you know that me and my dad had a lot of problems.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah.
Dude.
I think letting that go was a big burden off me. And we'll get to that part in my story in a bit.
Yeah.
I know I completely fast forwarded.
No, you're fine.
I didn't grow up with a dad, but my grandpa lived with me and my mom. And my grandpa and I shared a room for about 13 years.
So this explains why you guys were so close. Because I remember, I know he passed, and I'm so sorry to hear that. But it's like, it explains now, because like when you would write posts about him, you were so like passionate about it. You always post like a big kind of caption, a lot of deep, heartfelt stuff. And I get that now that you say that.
Yeah, he was my dad figure. And growing up, I was a very odd, I'm tall now, but back then I was short.
Right. And
I was very, very chubby. So I got bullied a lot in like elementary school. I didn't have any real friends. So my grandpa stepped up, and every Friday we'd go out to dinner and see a movie. On Saturdays, he'd take me to like the ball pin, and so we could hit some baseballs around.
Yeah.
Like my weekends were spent with him. Because I didn't have any friends to like ride my bike to, because I was always this odd kind of quirky kid that everyone picked on.
Yeah.
Until the day I was about 12 or 13, he ran into his high school sweetheart, who he hadn't seen in a long time. And within a year, they were married.
Oh, wow.
And then, he left her to go join the army in the 50s. And then they separated. They didn't see each other again until like the late 90s.
Damn.
And they end up, and he married twice. He married his girlfriend from Germany, who he got pregnant. She couldn't speak any English, and the sergeant told him to marry her because she was pregnant. That's his first wife. That's how he got married. The sergeant was like, forced him, because he got this German girl that's like English pregnant. So they were married for like a year, and then they realized they weren't for each other.
Yeah,
so
not compatible.
They divorced. They had kids together. That's where my Uncle Mike and Uncle Jimmy come from. And then he met a second wife. His second wife cheated on him, left. Yeah, so he had a rough patch in his love life. And then he was driving one day, and he's been thinking about his high school sweetheart for years. Like, where is she? What's she doing? He's driving, and he sees her initials on a license plate. And he kind of freaked out. So he kind of saw where she went. And I know it's creepy thinking about it, but it's also really beautiful. But he was like, this is something. So he saw where she went, and it was her. And he got out of the car, and he approached her. And he's like, you know who I am? And she's like, yeah. And then within a year, they were married, and they were together until he passed.
Man, now that's wild how moments like that come in life. It's like fate, like, something meaningful is happening to you.
Yeah, and I recently, my uncle digitized a bunch of his old cassette tapes. He would make these cassette tapes for her when they were dating again.
Yeah, in
the 90s, and I got him on a CD now, and I can just listen. And it's just crazy. He was like so in love. He was making up these little stories. It was like, oh, here's Elvis. He's got a song for you, and he would record an Elvis song and play it to her. Like, all these little cheesy things, but he was my hero, and he made me laugh. We hung out all the time. So he gets married and moves to Wisconsin.
Oh man.
But the thing was, for like, I'm like 13, right before junior high. This is kind of when things turned around for me.
Yeah,
a little bit. He would come out every weekend still from Wisconsin, in the Milwaukee area, so it's like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive.
Yes.
He would come out every weekend still to spend time with me every weekend, until I was in junior high and I started meeting people and I was breaking out of my shell.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm like, it's okay. You could stay. You don't always have to come spend time with your wife. So
Johnny
I kinda
Thunder
broke out.
was emerging.
I was coming, man. I was coming out, but I still had all those years of just like being bullied. Like people would throw rocks at me
Oh
sometimes.
man.
Like, yeah, I was called like almost every name in the book. I just mentally, I wasn't, because of that, I think it affected me mentally
Oh
a
yeah,
lot,
definitely.
where I looked the part, if that makes sense. Like people were calling me like Piggy, Fatty Piggy, whatever, and I just felt it, and so I looked it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it
If
definitely
you look
does.
if you look at pictures of me back then, I'm like this really chubby kid with like a runny nose, like with these really ugly pants that I kept wearing for some reason. Just yeah, I wasn't in a good spot. But then I met my buddy Ken in junior high and a few others, and then high school came, and I really broke out. And that's kind of where I got my personality in high school, because you hear this from comedians, Robin Williams especially, that how it's like to be sad and you don't want people to feel that way.
Yes.
So you go out of your way to make other people happy. And the way I did that was with my energy. I have like this crazy energy in person. And everyone just started laughing, and it caught on. And not only that, I was like going out and I was trying to help as many people as I could to like just be comfortable. Like to this day at parties, if I'm hosting it, I don't do anything but make sure everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have a good time myself, but as long as they're having a good time, I'm having a good time.
Well, I mean, it's probably something to the degree where it's like, if you're making everybody laugh, if you're making everybody happy, there's going to be a good chance that the bullying's definitely going to go down, because, if you're that funny fat guy or just the funny guy in general, there's a good chance you're not going to be messed with as much.
No, I somehow, after all that, I became friends with someone who used to bully me.
Wow.
And he apologized in high school, because he felt bad, because we're in like elementary school. Junior high wasn't terrible, but I was just kind of alone. I had a few friends, but it was really elementary school it was at its worst. And I had a few of them approach me in high school because we didn't go to the same junior high, and said sorry, and ended up becoming friends with them. I had friends in every group, like the goth kids, the preppy kids, the drama kids, but I always fit in that other category. And so did my close group of friends in high school. We were like the other kids.
Yeah. No, I identify with that, because you try to be friendly with everybody.
Yeah. But then like when you go to your tight group of people, it's a massive mix, and nobody is one thing. We're kind of a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So high school, I had a great time in high school. Like a lot of people can't say the same, sadly. And I feel really bad for them, because high school, what do you mean? What's that?
I was just going to say, what year did you graduate?
2007.
Okay, yeah, so that was the year of the show, because, you were going off to camp and all this other stuff. I remember. Okay, now, the timeline's lining up here.
And we could talk about that, too. Like, I also, at the time, we can get to why I'm not anymore, but I was really religious back then.
Yeah, I do remember that. I mean, because you were kind of like, you were wild, but you also definitely had the religious side to you. You didn't really bring it to the show, but I just knew, like, seeing you online, like on MySpace and stuff like that. So what was it about it that you kind of like got away from?
That's another big part of my development. So as a kid, I would go to this camp in Wisconsin.
Right.
And I would go for like 3 or 4 weeks at a time. But the people there were always very nice to me, but it was hard to make friendships, because you only see these people a few weeks a year, and then that's it.
Yes.
So I had like my camp friends, and in elementary school, going to this place, it was like my escape from the bulliness of everything. Like no one really bullied me there. The cabin leaders, the counselors wanted me there. Just people treated me good there.
Yeah.
And I think that's how my faith at the time came about. That's how I grew in that. And I just kept going and going. And I went I was like 8 years old when I started. I was 17 when I stopped. So I went my whole young life. And even after I wasn't in the camp anymore, I went back for like 8 years, and I just volunteered there for summers,
Yeah.
So that place, even like we'll get to the whole religion part of why I'm not religious anymore, but still that place has a big part of me, and I I visit sometimes. I go back maybe once every other year, and everyone knows me, and it's like a big reunion. And it's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. That was another big part of me because I would leave for summers, as you said. Like I was just like, hey, I'm gone for like 3 weeks. Bye.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And it was back in the day when like I had a phone, but it wasn't a good phone. It was one of those flip phones.
Yeah.
So people were like writing me letters instead of like texting me or something. I was getting letters at camp from like girls I liked. I got a letter denying me. I asked a girl out before I went, and she's like, I'll let you know, I'll write you. And like 3 weeks later, I'm at camp. I got a letter, and she's denying me. She's like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I just don't feel that way. So that letter, somehow, like the people in my cabin, the other campers, the teenagers, got a hold of it and was passing it around to all the girls.
Oh my
And
God.
at first I was scared, but then I got all this attention. So I was like, okay.
Hey, yeah, let's
I was like,
roll
I'll
with
just
it.
go with it. I'll roll with it. Like, I'm so heartbroken, guys. And the girl's like, oh my God.
Did it lead to any potential hookups over there? Was that a thing at camp? Or?
Yeah. Oh, that happens. Yeah. you go to the, there's this massive thing in the woods. It's called the archery golf course. It's like archery, but golf. It's with bow and arrows and golf.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's like 8 holes. It's like 3 miles long. And you would go kind of through the woods to one of those middle courses and have some fun, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Because there's no, yeah, that's the whole camp aspect, you know, that happens.
I never went to a camp like that. Like when I was in elementary school, I did go to a church camp. I was not even religious, but it was just something because my mother and my stepdad, her boyfriend at the time, like they worked all day and they're like, you know, at this age, we don't feel comfortable leaving you in the house. So we're going to send you to summer camp, but there was none of that. I mean, this was like, I want to say like 5th or 6th grade. So girls were still like, ew, gross. You know, there was no hooking up at all.
Yeah. Oh no, people were being kicked out for hooking up if they got caught. Like it was like you'd be hanging out with someone at breakfast, and then by dinner they were gone. They'd be like, what happened? They're like, oh, her and Susie were making out in the gym or just something like
Oh my God.
like, and then there's like, I was a prankster up there, and I had these like unbelievable pranks. Like,
I bet you did.
This guy, his name was Joe, and he was in shape, but he never wanted to walk. He drove around in a golf cart. And we were all annoyed because he was like, he's this brisk guy. He was not injured. He just drove around because he didn't feel like walking. So like 3 a.m, 2 nights before we were done, we stole it. We brought it to where we had meals, the mess hall there. We drove it into the mess hall, and we put all the tables around it. And he comes out. He's like, "Where's my golf cart?" He's like freaking out and everything. And he goes into the mess hall, and there's the golf cart just sitting there. It was awesome. So then the next year we stepped it up. We're like, okay, he's back with his golf cart, and he's being smart. He's hiding his keys now. One of the people in this cabin, one of the adults, we were like 16. The adult was like 23. He's like, I'll help you.
Right.
So he gets the keys, and we go like 20,000 steps higher than what we did. There in the middle of the lake is this big white raft.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 a.m. We get the golf cart to the lake, and we all go in the water, go underwater, unhook the raft. We drag the raft to the shore, and it's like 20 of us plus this like forklift we found. We're just driving this forklift. We pick up the golf cart, we put it on the raft, and we put it back in the water, and we bring it all the way down to the very end, and we tie it on there. So he wakes up. He's like, oh, no, they took my golf cart again. He goes over to the mess hall. It's not there. And he's like freaking out. And he's asking me, he's like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. I slept 8 hours last night.
He knew it was you immediately.
Yeah, he did. So he eventually made his way to the lake and lost his shit because there it was. It didn't go in the water. That white raft held that golf cart.
Holy
it was just floating in the, that thing was amazing. That thing was like 80 years old, and it held this golf cart. And it's just floating there. And he's just like, how did you even do that? And then he freaked out. He's like, you got to go get it. So we all went out there and we got it for him. But that was still one of my favorite memories up there, just putting this golf cart, on this raft in the middle of the water.
Dude, if that was now, like you guys would have that like on TikTok or something, it would have like 100,000 likes on it or something.
Somebody has a picture, but it's on like one of those disposable camera film roll somewhere.
Man.
I hope it resurfaces someday because that was probably one of my favorite things we did up there, man. And then we do like a bunch of little stuff, like the girls. We were at boys camp. It was just a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And they had high school girl workers who were working the kitchen, and we would go to their door and we would go to the mess hall, steal like 500 plastic cups and just put them in front of the door, stack them in front of the door.
Oh
so when they opened the door, they go flying. And then we took the porta potty and we opened the door and we put it right into their door. So when they open the door in the morning, it goes right to the porta potty. Just like stuff like that.
Dude, I think if you're not already on TikTok, you should be on TikTok. I think your humor would go a long way over there.
I don't have any time, man. I would, but that's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time. I don't even have time for that. Yeah.
So where were we after the whole camp thing? So high school, right?
High school. You graduated in 2007. You went to camp, and we were somewhere there.
Yeah. So after high school, I was like really lazy. So I just did school my whole life, and I wasn't feeling college. Like I went to community college, and within the first 3 weeks of classes, I ended up dropping out. Sorry, because I just didn't feel like being in the classroom anymore. It just wasn't my style. So I'm like, I'll take a semester off. So I took a semester off. I just worked. That's when I eventually got on YouTube. I was fucking around with YouTube, and all my other friends from high school had gone away to colleges in other states and towns and stuff.
Right.
So that was gone. I didn't have them, but I randomly met this group of people through another friend. That's the friend group I'm really close with now. I'm so close with these people. I'm more close with the people I met after high school than the people I met at high school. Just because it was a time in my life where all my other friends were in high school or making new friends, girlfriends, all that. And I was kind of in the town, but I met these people and we became really, really close. So we would spend nights together. I had no curfew. Like, do you remember being done with high school and you're in college, you're still living in your mom's place, and like you would always have bedtimes in high school. Now it's like you don't. Yeah. Like I was just like, I thought I was the coolest kid. Like I'd be out till like 3 a.m. like, oh yeah, look at me, like 3 a.m. 18.
And it's like, what are we even doing? Like when we're out to 3, right? I mean, half the time maybe you're at like some diner eating some shitty food, or like you're at the movies. Yeah, like what is this life, right?
I wasn't even like I wasn't rebellious. I wasn't drinking.
Yeah,
I was still very religious. Like the craziest thing we would do was go to a friend's house and go on the on-demand system on their TV. And this is back when they had dating profiles on the on-demand system.
God.
And you could just watch people's dating profiles with this number, and we would call the number and just mess with the people. like that was the extent of my 3 a.m. days.
Oh my God. It sounded more fun than my days.
Then we'd end up at Denny's having our second dinner of the night with like a milkshake.
3,000 calories at Denny's at fucking 2 o'clock in the morning. Are you kidding me?
There were nights where I would leave my buddy Matt's house at 4 or 5 in the morning. The sun's coming up. And I would stop at McDonald's and just get like a big meal on my way home, and then go home and sleep until 1 in the afternoon.
God,
like
dude.
that was...
Dude, I cannot figure out like what it was about late night and eating, like why like we are programmed in our minds that we need to have this gigantic meal at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
It's just, I think it's something to do with like body chemicals. Like you're just so excited and you're with people, and like what else are you gonna do? It's like 3 a.m. What are you gonna do? Let's go get something to eat.
Yeah, let me get the triple mega super grand slam. It's got like 6 eggs, 5 pancakes, 10 bacon.
My go-to was the appetizer platter, and I'd get like those chicken strips with potato skins and all that. You know,
mozzarella sticks. Yeah. So the good old days.
We were just like, there was a 24-hour buffet we found too, and we just fucked around there.
Oh my God, now that's trouble. I never went on that level. That sounds like some trouble, dude.
we had like regular spots, like on wrestling days. Monday we go to this pizza buffet. You know, Tuesdays we go somewhere specific, and weekends we would just go wherever we end up. You know, but I was talking to my buddy Russ, who you knew was Doc Bronson on Thunder Vision. I was talking to him yesterday. These times feel like they were yesterday, but they were so long ago.
They really were. How much time you spend thinking about the past? Be honest.
A good amount. Like
Same here.
At least once a day, I'll have something that triggers some memory from when I was like 22.
Yeah.
And I'll just like, where'd this come from? Like I was watching some Western and there was a cowboy, and I thought about the cowboy I saw at Denny's at 4 a.m. when I was 23. That made no sense. Like just these little things that trigger these moments. And you're like, where'd this come from?
Yes.
You know? And just the innocence of it all. Like you have no bills, you're working part-time jobs, you're living at home. Like you're just doing things you wanted to do in high school that you weren't able to do.
Amen.
Like going wherever you want, But at that time I was hitting 21, 22, 23, and the pattern of dropping out during semesters kept happening. I kept trying to go back, but then I would drop out 3 weeks later.
Right.
It was a massive waste of money just because I'm like, oh, school's not for me, but my mom's pressuring me. I need to go back. And it was like this cycle of me just trying to get into a school mind frame. And I wasn't feeling it, man.
Your heart wasn't into it.
No, but eventually I make a decision. This is where the religion shit comes in. That I should go to Bible school.
Right.
Because I've been religious all my life. And my thought process was community college isn't for me because I'm not focusing on something that's important to me at the time, which was my faith. I'm like, okay, I should probably find a Bible school.
Yes.
And the goal was to be a youth pastor. I wanted to be a youth pastor. That was my goal. So I found this 2-year Bible school in Wisconsin. And Gary, this place messed me up.
Really? Do tell.
This is near Milwaukee in a little town called Waukesha. I get there, and it's a school of maybe 150 people total. There was probably in my original graduating class only like 50 people.
Right.
So, and you're in a building. It's a 4-floor building. That's the whole school. Is this 4-floor building? The first floor is like the lobby. Second floor is where you eat in a little study room. The third floor, the classes. I might have got that wrong somewhere because there's like a girls' dorm and the guys' dorm separated by floors, whatever. But the whole school was on 4 floors.
Wow.
That's it. It was this little, and it was on this massive hill overlooking this really tiny, because there was an actual 4-year college in the area. So it was very much a college town. And I am one of the only people there from the United States.
Really?
People came there to be missionaries. That was the main focus of the school. So people were there from like places I've never heard of. I've never heard of Papua New Guinea until I got to that school. I'm like, what's Papua New Guinea? And there's people, they're like, I'm from an island called Papua New Guinea. I'm like, where the fuck is that? I'm just like baffled by these names. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And these kids, and I was like, I started when I was 23. Some of these kids were in their 17, 18. So I was a little bit older. Were extremely serious about what they were doing.
Yeah.
Extremely serious. They got to the point where I'm this fun-loving, energetic guy, and it's Friday night. I'm in college, and I don't want to go drink and get fucked up. I just want to go out to the town and see some of the live concerts and live bands outside. I'm like, guys, let's go do something. It's Friday. And they're like, no, we want to read our theology book. I'm like,
boy.
Okay. But eventually, as anywhere, you find the misfits, and I found the misfits.
Yes. I
found the people who were like me and didn't really fit in, but were there because they thought God led them there, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. So
we become friends, and I've kind of become the leader of this group of people who at the time I thought were with me. But the school starts noticing I'm different than everybody else. I'm going out on weekends, enjoying myself. I'm still doing all my homework on time. I'm getting good grades.
Yes.
I'm doing great. I'm doing everything I have to do. I'm working my way through school. I'm paying my way through the entire school. They have a thing there with the deans, the dean of education or dean of men. They called it the dean of men is what they called it. He was a dean, and he was in control of all the men. So you were supposed to go out on these one-on-one coffee days with these deans for like an hour and talk about your life. And you're supposed to tell them what you're struggling with, what you want prayed about, stuff like that. And that was all after classes. I never had time after classes.
Yeah.
Because I was going to work. I was working at a movie theater after classes. So that was like strike one for them. And they thought I wasn't taking the whole classes seriously. So they started having people watch me. And it wasn't staff, it was students. It was the people who I got close with that they kind of talked to. They convinced that I was doing wrong. And so these people who I thought were my friends ended up turning on me without me knowing it.
Yeah.
And they were giving the deans every little thing I was doing, just reporting it. And in the dean's eyes, what I was doing was wrong. Like I was watching PG-13 movies. That was something that was on the list. Like I think I streamed. This is funny. A few of the people. Now let me clarify this. Not every single person at the school did that to me. Yes. There was probably 4 or 5 people who I still talk to that were very good to me, and we were really close in that environment. They hadn't seen Space Jam,
right?
So I went to there's this like entertainment center with a big TV and a bunch of recliner seats where you can go and put movies on. I put Space Jam on, and the deans had a problem with that. They said it was too suggestive. And I was like, it's Space Jam. Like, then they said something about Lola Bunny from Space. I'm like, that's a bunny. Like, any person here who thinks Lola Bunny is hot needs to pray. Like, that was their thing though. That bunny has short shorts. I'm like, that's a bunny. It's an animated bunny. And they're like, well, that could cause someone to stumble in their walk with masturbation. I'm like, what? That was.
Wow.
So this is a 2-year school, and at the time the deans are watching my every move. I literally go to work, I come back, do my homework, and I'll watch a TV show, and they would comment on all my TV shows. They'd say he's watching Once Upon a Time, an ABC show about Disney characters. Like that was a thing.
Man.
So I was being reported on. My outgoing attitude was being talked about. I end up, after 1 year, I couldn't afford to stay, so I took a semester off just to save up and go back. I didn't know any of this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, my back. So I took a semester off. I come back for year 2. Whole new classes there because my class was like about to graduate because it's like technically it's a 4-semester thing. After 4 semesters, you graduate.
Yeah.
That's a 2-year program. So my class was about to graduate. So they graduate, those people leave. The deans found new people to keep an eye on me that I was talking with. They talked to them, did the same thing to these new people that I thought I was close with. And they got them to watch my every move. This is when it starts to go downhill.
Oh, boy.
At this point, I kind of notice I'm being watched by certain people. So I start rebelling in my own way. And my own way of rebelling in Bible school was taking these 3 people who had never seen a horror movie before, sneaking them into a classroom and streaming like Insidious or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh man,
like that was my rebellion.
You're so rebellious, John.
I'm like, fuck, what's gonna happen when they find that I watched Nightmare on Elm Street when people are being ripped to shreds? You know, and the people I'm showing it to, it's 2 guys and a girl. They're from Brazil, and they're like blown away. They're having fun, and these people didn't turn on me because we ended up watching all these R-rated horror movies in the classroom at like midnight. I'm like school nights. That was my rebellion. I'm like, well, fuck you guys. Like, I'm gonna watch horror movies because I love horror movies. Another one, there's silly rules is you had to sign a contract promising you would never ever drink as long as you were a student there, not 1 sip of alcohol.
Right.
And I was going home summers, and all my friends are drinking, and I'm like, I'm not gonna not drink. Like, I'm gonna have fun. Like, so I drank every summer, and I was smart. I didn't post that anywhere because I knew they'd have stuff to say.
Of course.
So it gets down to that last year. I'm midway through that last year, and they call me in the office, and they're like, "Oh, I forgot to. Let me backtrack. This story is wild."
Okay.
So that second year, I'm starting to doubt my own faith because of these classes. We're literally studying every book in the Bible, and they're going over each verse detail by detail. And as we're doing that, I'm seeing contradictions everywhere.
Right.
And in my head, you know, I was always told that doubting is a part of faith. Everyone doubts. So I thought it was normal that I was doubting. I would tell certain people I was doubting. They would tell the deans that, and then, you know, more trouble, blah, blah, blah.
Of course.
I was severely doubting my faith, and I was trying to grasp that because my whole life, I was like 24, 25. My whole life, I believed this one thing, and now I'm severely doubting it. And the people I'm telling this to are like, "This happens to everybody. You'll get through it. You'll get through it." And I believed it, and that was making it worse.
Oh,
you know?
my God, yeah.
So at this point, I just want to finish. I'm like, I just want to get done with this school, then maybe figure out what I want to do. In my head, I wanted to get to the finish line to say I did finish a college thing.
Yeah, say
So
you finished something.
one day, yeah. One day they called me into the dean's office. This is a few days before Thanksgiving. We're about to go home for Thanksgiving, and they're like, "Jonathan, we have to ask you to leave." I was like, I was so blown away. I was like, "What?" And they're like, "You've been failing your classes." And I was so confused. I was like, "What do you mean I've been failing my classes?" And they show me all these things with F, F, F. And I'm like, "Can you give me a minute?" They're like, "Yeah, go ahead." So I went upstairs. I kept every paper I had.
Yes.
Every single paper. I brought them down. They had A's on it. And I'm like, "How do these A's equal F's?" And they're like, "Well, we don't make mistakes." So they basically changed grades on me to get me out.
Oh, my God.
So they're like, "You could stay for the next few days. You could stay to the end of the semester if you want. But after the semester, we want you to take a year off to really think about yourself." And this is kind of like, we talk about wrestlers and wrestling. This is kind of my CM Punk moment.
Oh, yeah.
For all those who know wrestling, like I kind of lose it. I'm like, no, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I've been treated like shit since I got here. I'm trying to learn and grow in my faith, and I have all these doubts, and no one's helping me. And I'm like, this is when I found out that all my friends were all spying on me. So this is all happening at once. I'm being told this at one time, and I'm just overwhelmed, and I'm just going off.
It's a mind
and
fuck.
They're like, "Oh, yeah," I was mind fucked. And they're like, "Well, you could stay for a few more days, then you can leave." I'm like, "No, fuck, I'm leaving now."
Yeah, get me out of here.
This is like 9 a.m. Classes go till 12:30. Nobody's in the dorm, so I leave. I pack my things up, and within an hour of that conversation ending, I'm out of there. Everything I own gone.
Wow.
I pack up in my car and I head back to Chicago. I'm like, I'm not staying. I'm not coming back. Like, this was unfair. They changed grades on me to get me out because I didn't fit in.
That's unbelievable to me. I'm just like, I'm sitting here with I got to pick my jaw up off the floor to try to formulate my thoughts here. It's like, I mean, they're literally changing your grades because they don't like you. They don't think you fit in.
Yeah. And I'm sorry if I talked way too much there without letting you talk. It's a long story.
Dude, it's a podcast. We're in the talking game, brother. You should know this better than I have. You've done it longer than me.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a fan of like talking for a long period of time like that without having anyone, get a question out or something.
Yeah, you're the original. You're the original pod father. Look at you.
Oh. I've told that story to a good amount of people. All my good friends know it. A lot of my camp friends don't even know that. Like, they don't know I'm not religious anymore.
Yeah.
When I came home from that, I was 25, almost 26, and I was back at my house with my mom and my sister. My sister moved into my old room that I had in high school, the bigger room, and I was sleeping on her old bed from when she was like 5 or 6. Yeah. And I'm this tall guy, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like my whole world was basically crumbling around me.
Yeah. Mm. How do you feel? Like, I mean, because you're religious for so long. I mean, safe to say most, if not all of your life up to that point, and like everything that you believed in is gone, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you try to restructure your mind.
Yeah.
And as I was going through that, it's not like I had a good full-time paying job. Like all my friends were working, getting their own places by this time. And I was at home. I had no job. I had no full-time job. I had no part-time, and my belief system is shattered.
You got to be like mentally rock bottom at this point.
Yes. I'm man enough to say I cried almost every night because I was so overwhelmed. Those nights of going out till 3, 4 in the morning were done because all my friends had full-time gigs, 9 to 5, you know. It's not like we can just go out and goof off. Like, I'm in my mid-20s, things are changing for everybody. And I was still seeing them every weekend, but like the weekdays were rough. Like
Yeah.
it was just me by myself. And I'm just trying to structure everything about myself. And man, it's hard.
I can only imagine. I mean, so at this point, like, how do you figure out what your next move is? How long does it take you to start figuring out, like, okay, what is my next move here?
So I think it's just seeing my own friend's success that kind of gave me a kick in the ass. You're like, I sat there at my mom's place until I was about 27, 28. So about 2 or 3 years after Bible school, I was still there.
All right. So just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, this is still kind of fresh, you know. I'm still in that frame of mind 3 years after Bible school. I'm just sitting there, and I've been in that frame of mind for 3 years straight. Wow. And I've been I've had job after job, part time, couldn't find anything full time because I had no college experience.
Yes,
like I had nothing. I was just working at like Pizza Hut. Like one of my lowest moments was when I was a delivery driver at Pizza Hut, and I delivered a pizza to my old high school English teacher. And he asks what I've been doing, and I'm like, nothing. And that really hit me hard, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like everyone else around you was doing great. So I'm trying to think what year. So 27 is when this all starts turning around, a few years after.
Okay.
I'm still at home. At this time, I'm finally getting interviews for full-time jobs. I get this job at a plumbing and heating place full-time Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That felt great. So I'm working full-time in this gig, making decent money, but I'm still living at home. So I'm like, okay, I need to get out of my house. So I go to Craigslist.
Right.
And because I don't have, my credit is shot. My credit is still shot. It's not as bad as it was then, but it was bad.
Oh, mine's bad too.
Yeah. I couldn't get my own place. So I had to rely on finding a roommate. So I go and I find this guy, and it turns out he knows one of my friends from the camp I went to. So she put a good word in for me.
Yeah.
To vouch to live there. So I finally get my own space. It's this townhouse, but he gave me the entire basement. I had my own private entrance and had a bathroom, a living room, a kitchen, a bedroom. It had all of that in the basement.
Damn.
So that felt like my very own place because I never saw anybody else. You know, no one came down there because that was my space.
Yes.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm making money. I have my own spot. You know, I kind of feel successful, but I'm not complete.
Yeah.
You know, you have all this stuff, but you don't feel complete, you know?
Yep.
So I was at a movie one day. It's a crazy thing that this simple movie changed my life. You ever see The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman?
Oh man, did I see that? I want to say yes. It's
the musical where he's P.T. Barnum with the circus.
Okay, musical. No, I'm not a big musical guy, so I'm thinking I did not see that. But go ahead.
All right. So it's this whole movie about P.T. Barnum. He did Barnum and Bailey Circus. You know that, right?
Oh, definitely.
It's a whole musical about how they met and a lot of liberties taking. It's not the real story, blah blah blah. But it was a musical about being yourself, chasing after what you believe in, and doing it with your whole heart. And there's like 3 or 4 songs in that movie that as I'm sitting there in December, they broke me, man. Like I was bawling at some of these songs about like how, you know, be yourself, do what you love, you know. And after the movie's over, I go home and I'm just sitting and I'm like, well, what do I love? And my mind frame goes back to entertaining people. And I start remembering the high school stuff. And I'm like, well, I had something. I go back to podcasting. I go back to YouTube. Like I had a following on all these mediums and people found me entertaining. And that's kind of where the process started. The first thing I did after seeing that movie, the next day, I signed up for improv comedy classes in this local comedy theater here in Schaumburg. That started January 2018 is when that started.
Wow.
From that day, since that day, I've been on such a roll. It's been unbelievable. And it's all because of this movie that brought out those emotions and truly motivated me to do this. You know?
Dude, that's incredible. I actually had a guy on here. I think he was in like actual Chicago, but I don't know. I'm going to run this name by you. I don't know if you know this name or heard of this name. Jefferson Goldie. You know this guy?
No, I don't. Nope,
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
know.
He did some improv stuff, in Chicago. I'd have to go back and listen to the podcast. It's on my archive, but, he's not too far from where you're at. And it sounds like you guys are doing something similar. Maybe we can get you guys linked up possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Because, it's the story from where that took me, it's taken me to, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what I've been posting.
You've been to LA. I know that.
Yeah. So this is how it started. So 2018, I'm just doing improv and I get through the basics. And then eventually after the basics, you do the advanced class. And after the advanced classes, you have your own show on like a Saturday afternoon. After that first show, I knew I wanted to do this as long as I could. I wanted to put my whole heart into this.
Yes.
Because I got on stage and I just, the laughter I got from people and just that energy is such a fucking high. And it's just, it feels so damn good. And I'm just like, I want this over and over again.
Yes.
So 2019 comes, I'm still doing classes, but I start writing shows.
Oh man.
So this is where Second City comes in. You know the history of Second City, right?
I've definitely heard the name. Yeah.
So the people, for you and people who don't know,
yes,
this is Second City, Chicago, is where people like Chris Farley, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, all these people, the original SNL cast came through Second City, Chicago. They did their program. They started on that stage. And that's just a few of the big names, like Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul got his start there. Like all these big name people started there. So I started writing shows, and I wrote this show about this magician who can't do magic but thinks he can do magic. And it's a magic show, and things just go wrong and wrong and wrong. So I wrote it, and I sent it to about 10 theaters in Chicago. The only theater I got back to me was Second City.
Wow.
And they're like, we like this. We want you to come and do this show. They gave me 3 dates in October on like a Friday night at like 9:30.
Wow.
So it was kind of, it was a really good spot. And that's when it all started. Then I was like, okay, I need the producers. I need 2 actors. So I put a casting call out. I did about 5 hours of auditions for this. I chose 2 people. We did about 2 months of rehearsing for this between that. And then October came and we did the shows. And the shows didn't draw that many people. My friends and family came, their friends and family came, and a few others.
Yes.
My first show was a disaster. Because the girls who were there with me, the first 2 girls I chose, they weren't a good choice. They had egos, and it was all about them. And they kept demanding me to change things right before our shows. So I didn't know what I was doing. So the first show, people came like strangers. They ended up walking out halfway through because it was a mess.
Yeah.
That was my first. So my first set of shows wasn't that great.
Very humbling.
But I didn't let that get to me. Second City liked my hustle. So after October, they gave me December dates. 4 Fridays in December at 8 p.m. Even better.
Yeah.
No, this was No, they gave me Saturday. It was Saturdays at 8 p.m. On their studio stages. So I did the same character, but I gave him a Christmas special. And those 3 shows sold out. All 3 of them.
Wow.
And that was a blast. I had a great time. I learned a lot. That led to me getting called from Second City, Los Angeles. Wrote a show with a talented group of people, went out there, did it, sold it out. So we sold out LA.
Holy
that market, dude, that market's hard to sell out because there's so much happening at one time in California and LA. And we promoted for like 2 months and we got the place sold out. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty fucking crazy. So in my head, I'm like, I want to keep topping myself. So this year rolls around. I hit up a few theaters in New York.
Yeah.
And one of them said yes. So I'm going to New York in May to do a show.
Oh, my God. John.
I know.
Wow.
So not only that, but I have this great relationship with Second City, Chicago that I already have dates. I had dates this month. Unfortunately, the virus came in the way, but I still have dates. I have dates up to June right now. And I'm probably going to get some for September. Like they keep offering me dates over there. because I work hard, I bring people. It's crazy how just in these last few years, like my late 20s to early 30s so far have been a roller coaster.
So you mean that hard work always wins? Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, you are, man. And
wow.
It's every time, like just now I'm tearing up just thinking about this because, it's been a journey. Like, and I wish I would have done this in my early 20s, not done the religious thing, but at the same time, I had to learn a lot to get to where I am now. To really appreciate.
Well, you got to learn how to love losing and lose a lot and then a lot more. And then along the way, you learn how to win.
Yeah. And people ask me, what's your end game? I don't have one. I just want to make people happy. I don't care about being famous.
Yeah.
My mindset is as long as if it's a sold out show and one person had a great time and the others didn't, I consider it worthwhile because that one person had a good time.
Dude, can I make a bold prediction right now that might blow your mind?
Yeah, let's do it.
In the next, let's just say 5 to 10 years, you're going to appear on SNL. I'm putting it out there right now.
I try not to hype myself up that much because I don't want to disappoint myself.
Well, I'm going to hype you up, and then if it doesn't pan out, which I'm going to say right now, it will pan out. But if it didn't, you can say, "Oh, well, that's just Gary. He was talking shit." But look, I really believe in what you're telling me. I believe in what you've done thus far, and I'm telling you right now, like it's going to go places, and the right people are going to see it. It's going to potentially lead you into television and or movies. Like this is the direction it goes. It's definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of time of when.
Yeah, I would be cool. And I think I'd be the most interesting, famous person ever because I would want to interact with people. So I'm like, hey, I'm going grocery shopping today. Come find me. Like shit like that.
Yeah, man. You know what you got to do. And I'm not angling for myself, but like just find a random person and make a King Marty character in one of your bits.
For you, I'll do that. Easy. I'll do that for you because you asked and you've been good to me all these years.
I would love to see that. And just send me the video, but I think it's got to be like because the real Marty, he's an older guy. But maybe you just have like this delusional man with a crown on his head. He's an older guy. He's just completely delusional, and he just, hey man, hey, just write him in somewhere.
Hey, my gosh, I'm Def Leppard for $10 in 1979.
Damn, $10, man. Def Leppard, $10. The hell?
And you talk about the positives of it.
Yeah.
My struggle today with all this is because years I had and bad anxiety because that's not gone. Now that because a lot of my heroes had that and died.
Yeah,
and that's the saddest thing to say. One of my biggest inspirations is Chris Farley, and I feel with every fiber of my being what that guy was going through because he just wanted to make everybody happy, but he himself wasn't happy.
Yes.
And I get that. So I get why these comedians choose their drug route. Because after a hot show where the crowd is laughing and roaring and you go out to a party with all these people and they're telling you how good you were and how good it was, then you get home to silence. And it's like, I want that. Where to go? And that's when, you start doing drugs,
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want that. But I feel every time I do a show, I'm out till like 3, 4 in the morning with people. And then I get home, I can't wind down for a few hours. I lay there up. And I usually will either end up hating myself or be like, oh, I want to do that again. Like it's a big mix. Like people check on me every night after a show because they know I go through shit. Like my head goes through all this stuff. So it's still a struggle. Like I want that high all the time,
Oh yeah. No, I totally get it, man.
Mm-hmm. It's sad. Every one of my heroes basically died because of this, because of doing what they loved. And I'm trying to be mindful of it,
Yeah.
I just started doing CBD oil after shows. I smoke it in this little vape I have. That usually calms me down enough where I can most likely sleep. It doesn't always happen.
Right.
So I'm trying to find ways that won't kill me, that will help me calm down.
Well, and I know over the last couple of years you've gotten a lot healthier. You lost some weight.
Yes. I did keto starting last year, dropped 60 pounds on keto.
That's incredible.
I didn't work out. I just did keto. I guess the stage stuff was like a workout to me.
Oh, yeah, you're probably burning all kinds of cardio up there, man. Bouncing around, shot out of a cannon.
Because my usual schedule is like I have a really good full-time job now, Monday through Friday. They take care of me very well.
Yeah.
Then I go straight from there to the city to meet with a new show.
Yeah.
The show we're doing. And I'm doing that Monday through Thursday. So I'm not getting home till like midnight on most days. So I'm asleep for 7 hours, wake up, do it all over again. By the end of the day, and if I don't have a show on the weekends, I don't do anything show related on the weekends because I need to unwind a bit.
I bet.
So just doing that schedule was like, it was hard to maintain on keto because you're always gone. You're not really I never cooked. Like I would cook maybe once a week. Unfortunately, when the holidays came, I stopped doing keto and I gained 80% of it back.
Yeah, well, it happens. I mean, believe me.
Yeah. but just the fact that I did it, like it shows that I can. I'm trying to get back into that mindset that I can do it again.
Well, I think the best idea really is to find something that's based around your preferences, your schedule, and there are ways to do it. It may sound impossible now because you're like, well, God damn, I'm so busy, I got all this stuff going on, but you really can find a way eventually to make it fit around your preference and your schedule. And then once you figure that out, and it'll take time, you'll try a little bit of this, won't work. You'll try a little bit of that. Maybe that won't work or something will work a little bit. And you're like, oh, okay, I start to see it. And then eventually you figure it out and then it just starts clicking and you'll be right back on your shit.
Yeah, I hope so because I did gain a lot of it back. And the feeling that I had of just more energy and more mindfulness it's gone because once the holidays hit, I went back to fast food and there was a time where I was eating McDonald's twice a day again.
Dude,
yeah. I know you've been through it. I know you've been through it too. And I'm just so proud of you. And you're someone I look up to as well because I see the hard work you put in. You're very honest about your failures.
Yeah.
And that makes you human. It makes you human, you know?
Yeah.
You're human and you're just trying.
I mean, I did a podcast like this podcast here will air in May because I work far ahead. But I mean, as we're recording this in March, I just did a podcast in February where I talked about how I gained 30 pounds back from the 100 plus that I dropped. And, you know, it messed with me a little bit, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to tweak some stuff. I'm going to figure it out. And you eventually get back on it because what we realize in this process, John, is that there is no time limit. There's no schedule. This is your life and you just figure out the best things for your life. You're not in a hurry. You're not in a rush. You just slowly ease into it.
Yeah. And I did, when I was my heaviest, was tested for pre-diabetes. I'm not on the shots. I'm on the pills right now, the metformin pills.
Right.
But going back to my grandpa, I saw what diabetes did to him. And little personal tidbit about this. We were all able to say goodbye when he was passing.
Yeah.
We were called on a random weekday night, said he was in the ICU. There's something wrong. We all went out there. Within maybe 30 hours, he was gone from that phone call of us getting out there.
Yeah.
So we had an idea that the falling, smiling. And one of the things he told was, don't end up like me. And I know what he was saying because he was very unhealthy his last few years with diabetes and those shots. He wasn't feeling good. He told me not to end up like him. That sticks with me every day. And I really want to make him proud with that. And I'm working on that every day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a process, man. It's one day at a time. It sounds cliche as hell, but I mean, it's the truth. I mean, you literally have to take it one day at a time. If you look in the short term and you're like, well, I just went up 2 pounds this week or whatever. Like, you know, that's not the right mindset. You want to look at the big picture, the overall picture. You're changing habits slowly but surely, and all this stuff works out in the end.
Yeah. Like I never thought I was funny, but here I am doing stuff like this.
Yeah, you're selling out freaking shows. One day I'm going to be sitting in a movie theater somewhere, and I'm going to look at my wife and I'm going to say, look at this son of a bitch, this beautiful bastard on the screen. I'm like, I used to do prank calls with this guy on some shitty internet show, and look at him now. I paid money to sit in this theater, and I'm watching him on this big screen. What is going on?
I'll bring you to some. I'll bring some with people we prank called. How about that?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Are you still with that? Is that the same girl that I met when we met?
Yes. We're married now.
Awesome. Oh, I'm glad. Good job, man.
I know. Cool. Well, I only fucked up the first time with the first girl, and I got divorced, and then I met the right one. Or I found the right dancing partner.
Yeah. I'm not dating now, but if any ladies out there want to come at me, let's go.
Well, I happen to know that there are lots of ladies that listen to this show. So at where are you at on the Instagram? I am John Krauser.
Yeah, I am John, JOHN, KRAUSER. We could talk. We don't even have to talk about dating. We just talk about life,
There you go. There you go. Get in the DMs.
Get those DMs because they're pretty high. Comedy doesn't bring the girls, okay? No matter what they tell you, comedy does not bring the girls.
Well, look, tell me this. We'll wrap it up with this. Tell me, like, in the next couple of years, what is the grand plan? What do you ultimately want to do? Put some goals out in the universe here.
First and foremost, health-wise, I want to get – I'm at like 310 now. I want to get to 250.
Yeah.
And then from there, get to 220 and then maintain it at like 220. That seems decent. And I'm a tall guy. Other than that, I just want to continue to have fun. I'm not trying to make a lot of money doing this. I'm just living my life, making people happy, and just having fun doing it. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing now. If it blows up, great, I'll go with the flow. But if not, I'm still going to be happy.
Yeah, no, that's all that matters. And you know what? If both of us don't end up amounting to nothing, and this is absolutely not what's going to happen, but if it somehow happens, then maybe we'll do internet radio again and figure it out.
We should save up and buy Blog Talk Radio and bring it back.
Oh my God. But we have to call in through the telephones, the switchboard and all that stuff.
You need to make a promise to me now, okay? If somehow I ever become famous,
yes,
you need to make sure King Marty is still thriving and bring him to one of my premieres.
Well, I hope we can keep this guy alive. I mean, man, he's been through some. I mean, are you talking about the character? Or are you talking about the real guy? What are we talking about?
The real guy.
Yeah, he's had some health problems. He's healing. He's doing okay, but he's had some rough times.
Does he know that you did that on the show?
He has no idea. He has no idea.
So when I come up to him, I'm like, "What's up, King Marty?" We're like, "What?"
He will acknowledge himself as the king, and it's actually funny because he'll send me like a random waterfall of emojis in my text messages. He's a fellow iPhone guy, and he'll just start sending all these different emojis, and that's our conversation. So we randomly have text message conversations with nothing but emojis. It's wonderful.
Fucking King Marty, he's a gem. I'm gonna make a movie after him one day.
I hope you do. I mean, that would be a greatest honor. I know his son, my best friend, would absolutely love that.
It'd be a crossover with King Marty and Joe Dirt going around the country. It's a buddy cop movie, Joe Dirt and King Marty.
Oh man, that's a mess waiting to happen. You want to talk about cool like combinations. I always thought that you and Bert Kreischer were like two like people that should have connected at some point. Maybe you still will, but I thought the two of you guys were like you were almost like his long lost son or something.
Well, if you have a contact with him.
Well, I had him on the shoot in 2013, and I actually recently re-released that interview, and I tried to like tweet and Instagram to get his attention for another round, and it didn't work because like he has like Netflix specials now and everything. But like I remember when he used to do like Bert the Conqueror and Trip Flip, like he'd go crazy on roller coaster. I'm like, this is like John, but like in an older adult form. Like these guys need to like hang out. They need to like know each other exists.
There's not a lot of current comedians I watch, but he's one of them. I'm more into the old school stuff. Andy Kaufman, Chris Farley. Yeah.
But am I crazy? Am I far off on that? Do you get vibes like, man, you know, like this guy, he seems like we're in the same kind of like ilk, like.
No, we have the same energy. I noticed it. I could feel it. Like if we were in the room together, I'm pretty sure like we'd get kicked out because it'd be too much.
All right. Well, somehow we're gonna bring the two of you together. I don't know how this is gonna happen, but it needs to happen.
I believe in you. It's got to be you who does it. It's got to be you. I have no time.
Well, you know what it is then? We just need to link up with one of his shows and somehow get a meet and greet and get you guys to meet each other and then see what happens.
Okay, we'll figure that out. We'll do it by the end of 2025.
Well, that's the thing too. Like we need to hang out again. I'm not going to get you off the phone yet until we make a commitment here to hang out at some point in the future.
Yeah, are you like you're still in DC area, right?
Yeah, it's a little far away from Chicago, but I've never actually been to Chicago. That's the crazy thing.
Well, you'd have a free place to stay. We got an extra bed here. Whenever you want to come out, just let me know. Whenever AEW is doing something, you can come check it.
I appreciate that.
I've also never been to Washington, D.C. I've always wanted to come because I'm a big history buff.
You've never been here?
There's a lot I want to see. No, I want to, though. That's on my list for this year, to visit Washington, D.C. and see all the historic stuff.
Oh, dude, I will totally take you around to some museums. I mean, we got a whole bunch of them. Yeah,
I just did Boston. I took like a actual like personal trip because I was doing all the stuff for comedy. So I went to Boston. I did the Freedom Trail in Boston. Then I did Salem for a day. I'm a big history guy. I love history.
I've never done Boston, never done Chicago, but yeah, DC, I think you would dig that. And I do remember a little bit of the history stuff because like we went to the museums in New York and you were all about it.
Yeah. If you come to Chicago, you got a place to stay as long as you want. And we're right by the train. We're not by the shooty areas. Like it's quiet here.
No, I've always had this love for Chicago, even though I've never been there, because Perfect Strangers was one of my favorite shows growing up.
Oh God, perfect! I could take you to where they filmed like the Home Alone series. The Home Alone house is close to me.
Oh, of course, I love that.
Yeah, Blues Brothers stuff is out here. If you like The Dark Knight, I drive through that tunnel where they filmed like that big tunnel scene all the time.
Oh my God.
Like, just stuff like that. And are you close to New York? No, you're not too close, are you?
I'm about 4 hours away.
I guess I could plug that. If this is coming out in May,
yes,
I'll be at the Pit Theater in New York City on Saturday, May 30th. It's a 10 p.m. show. By the time people hear this, the show will be written, but as of right now in mid-March, we're still writing it, but I'll be there.
Nice. That is good stuff. And hey, maybe you'll perform in DC one day as well.
Is there even a scene in DC? Like, where would I go for that?
Oh, dude, I have no clue. You're asking the wrong guy. I just know we have venues here. That's about all I know.
Well, if I can get someone in New York to pick me up, I don't think it's going to be hard to get someone in like DC to pick me up.
Speaking of which, I know you've been in New York a couple of times and you grew up in Chicago. What's better? Settle this for me. Chicago pizza or New York pizza?
Oh, Chicago pizza, easy. That's not even a question.
Really?
It's got the flavor. It's got the length. It's beefy as fuck. Like New York, I've been to New York maybe 3 times, and this last trip was the only time I had good pizza in New York. Out of 3 times, I only had good pizza once.
Wow.
And it was average. It was just this skinny little thing. I'm like, all right, it's fine. Like it's fine, but it's not like my deep dish with those butter crusts. No.
I've never had a proper deep dish. I mean, I've been to Uno's here, but that I feel like that's not proper. You know?
No, that's shit. Don't ever go to Uno's again. That's shit. You come here, I'll take you. I'll take you to Lou Malnati's or Giordano's. Like, you'll get the real stuff.
That's what what I want.
No, Giordano's in other places does not taste the same as Giordano's in Chicago. So don't give me that shit. Now you're making me want deep dish. I haven't had deep dish in a while.
Oh my God. And I host a podcast where I talk to a lot of people about weight loss and stuff, and I should not be talking about deep dish because I probably triggered like a couple hundred people.
We're going to have so many people come to Chicago when the virus is done just to eat pizza because of this show. Like, take me if you're going. Take me.
Dude, that's a real thing, man. I go to cities and I'm like, I start looking on Yelp. All right, where am I going to go? It's a real thing, man. I can't get away from it.
I know we're kind of trying to wrap it up, but let me tell you, I had the worst pizza of my life in Los Angeles. That was shit. I don't even know what that was. I was drunk and high at the same time, and we're on Sunset Boulevard, and I'm fucking hungry. So I go in one of these little shops, and I get like 4 slices of pizza. And it was just like garlic bread with no sauce, cheese, and sausage. I'm like, this is garlic bread.
Was it like some hipster vegan fucking pizza or something?
No, it just had a sign that said pizza. I'm like, fuck yeah, pizza. Like,
yeah.
It tasted like it wasn't even good garlic bread. It was like the shitty garlic bread. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like there's no sauce. There's barely any meat. There's cheese and garlic. I'm like, this is not pizza. Like, fucking LA. I'll never eat there again unless I'm drunk and high like I was there.
Well, they WrestleMania's coming there next year. If the coronavirus still isn't a thing, then.
Well, if that's the case, if I don't see you in DC, you should come out to that, because I'm already talking to Second City LA about getting some wrestling themed shows for that weekend.
Oh, dude, it's happening. I'm confident it's happening. I had Tampa already booked, and then Vince was like, God damn it, pal, we're going to do a performance center, empty arena.
That's right. Roman will not get booed.
Yeah. I was reading all the Reddit threads before we got on the phone. I was like, oh, boy.
Tell me, how funny would it be if like Vince like gets a crowd of all these people who are being trained in the performance center? He's like, all right, when Roman comes out, you cheer. And you chant, "This is awesome," when he has his match. That way he gets every reaction he wants. Like,
I know.
Oh God, that's good shit.
I will say this. I don't do wrestling on the show, but I will say this. I feel bad for Drew because he's probably going to beat Brock, and he's not going to have like that defining WrestleMania moment. He's going to be in this empty fucking gym in Orlando. You know, like, I feel bad for the guy.
Same for Edge. Edge's first singles match in like almost 10 years, and he's nothing.
That's the funny thing. They were here in DC last week. I think it was last week. Yeah, and Edge came back, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I don't need to go to this because I have WrestleMania tickets. Yeah, well, I missed out on that one.
Dude, it's gonna be so awkward, and I can't wait to watch it. Like, because I can give a shit about them anymore. Like, I watch the pay-per-views, and that's it. Like,
same here.
I don't care about Raw. I can't watch it. It's too long.
Well, the good thing about it is we've been going now for an hour and a half, and so I have the DVR built up so I can fast forward through half of it.
What day is it? Oh, it's fucking Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing the empty arena Raw tonight.
Oh, I can't wait for that Stone Cold pop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Undertaker makes this long entrance into a gym with nobody in it.
Please. No, come on. Little wrestling talk. If you got this is going to be airing months in advance, but you got to do American Badass for this. You got to bring the badass back for this one.
Dude,
this makes sense.
Dude, he's literally going to walk out there slow walking, and there's going to be nobody there to see it. Big time WrestleMania entrance, and it's going to be completely like nothing.
Oh, I can't wait to see the stage, like WrestleMania.
They better dress that place up or do something, because like it looked kind of bland when I saw SmackDown. I'm not going to lie.
And when this airs, it's going to be over, so we can laugh at ourselves.
Yes, we can see like what actually happened. The Undertaker's entrance went down from 18 minutes to about 5.
I heard Jimmy Snuka's still walking back from the ramp from WrestleMania 25. He's still making his way.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dude. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad we did this.
I know. I just thought about you. I'm like, God, I got to hit him up. We got to get him on the show. And because here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, you talk about the roller coaster of life that you've been through and how you're kind of on this really like high right now. And I'm just like, this is inspirational. This should tell people, like, find your passion and go all in on it and watch what happens.
Yeah. Let me get your opinion. Like, from where I was when you met me to where I am now, what do you think is like the biggest change? I'm just curious, like since you've known me for a long time.
Well, we can actually hold a conversation now. I mean, you were like shot out of a cannon every time we talked. And like, I always felt like I was never talking to the real guy. I always felt like I was talking to like just like a, you know, like a character or something, because you always were like so animated and like crazy. And like the fact that we did an hour and 40 minutes, like, holy shit. Like we just had like a real conversation. I've only been waiting for this for 13 years.
Well, I'm good at like turning myself on and off now.
Yeah.
Like back then I wasn't. Back then it was just one speed, you know.
Yeah.
Now I can turn it on and off because I do all these things behind the scenes now with these shows, so I can't be this crazy fucking guy. Like if I'm writing and directing, I'm directing these shows in a way because I wrote them and I'm telling people what to do.
Yeah.
I can't be like, all right, now it's gonna be a Bart Gunn match, like whatever the fuck that was. Like I gotta. It's crazy because some people just see me now as like the boss of a show. Like they don't see me as like the energetic guy. Then I go on stage and they're like, "Where the fuck did that come from?" I'm like, "It's always there. I'm just focusing on a lot right now."
You never did meet Bart Gunn though, did you?
No, I've never even seen a Bart Gunn match.
That disappoints me.
I know.
As many times you
sad.
referenced him in 2007, like only like 10 years after he was like in his prime. And the fact that you guys never came across each other at like a WrestleCon or nothing, like I'm bummed now.
Him and Haku, I used to reference Haku a lot.
Oh my God.
I've never seen a Haku match either.
Haku, man. I want to mess with that guy. He's legendary, this guy.
I kept like taking these obscure wrestlers' name. I'm like, this would be funny if I referenced him. Like, shit like that. Like I don't know. Man. My head, honestly, it takes a lot to shut my head down. Like I told you, like after shows, like it's like going 10,000 miles an hour.
Well, I'll tell you what. I went through and I uploaded all those old shows. So if you ever look up the shoot, like on any of the stuff, you can find it. I'll have to send you a link.
I don't know if I want to listen to that. I don't know if I want to listen to that.
I don't know. You might. I mean, you might find some nuggets in there.
Some Owen Harts. I find some Owen Harts in there.
Yeah. You might find something in there, and I mean, I would say at least go back to the very first show you were on, at least, so then you can hear how you introduced yourself to a new audience.
Oh, what did I fucking do? Did I do my laugh or whatever the fuck? I don't even know.
I'll have to go back and listen to it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and find out which episode number that was, and I'll have to let you know.
Fucking cool. This was really cool to do, man. I appreciate that we got to do this.
Definitely, dude. Thank you so much again. And one more time, plug everything you got going on.
All right. So since we're in May, if you're listening, May 30th, Saturday, May 30th, 10 p.m., the Pit Theater in New York City,
yes.
Kind of nearby Times Square. We're doing a show that is it's a sketch comedy show about Disney shows that were rejected by Disney Plus. So we have like a skit where it's like Mickey Mouse, like, "Oh, I'm a six-addict, oh boy," like the shit like that, you know. We haven't really written it. You're like, "Oh, Minnie, come over here, put some peanut butter on that dick," like whatever, something like that. Wow. You know, just and so we're in the process of writing that. By the time people hear this, we'll be getting ready to actually go do it.
Yeah.
And then right after that, June, all 4 Fridays in June, Second City, Chicago, we're going to be doing a show called Are You Still Watching, which parodies streaming content at its best. It's something I'm really proud of. We were supposed to do it in March, but they all got canceled the day before. So we decided we're going to take these dates I had in June and do them. So that's Second City, Chicago. Are You Still Watching? 10 p.m. Fridays in June.
Fantastic. And at I am John Krauser on Instagram. I'll link that in the show notes as well.
Right on, man. Right on.
All right, man.
Thank you so much, dude.
You got my number now. Keep in touch, please.
Yeah. I'll try to see if I can squeeze in a DC trip this year. I got a lot going on, but it would be nice to do a trip where I don't have to do anything, you know?
Hey, you come here and I'll take you to a real pizza place. You want New York, like a real good New York place? I'll take you to one.
What, in D.C.? Pizza in D.C.?
Well, it's not in D.C. proper. It's in Northern Virginia where I live.
Oh, I thought you were going to take me to the Pizza Gate place. I'm like, what the fuck? No.
No, I'm going to take you to a place called Valentino's, and they're amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that better be good. Or else you're on the line for that. We'll do a whole show about my review on that. It'll go 2 hours.
We'll go 2 hours.
Every little detail. Every little detail.
Broadway times 2.
Yeah, the cheese, the meat, the sauce, the crust. What's it about?
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. All right, buddy. You have yourself a good night. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, John. Take care, brother.
Thanks, man.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Wow, what a show. What a show. Thank you very much, John Krauser. God damn, what a show. That guy is shot out of a cannon. I love him. I absolutely love him. Hey, guys, thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. Make sure, of course, you check out patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. Any donations to the show, greatly appreciate it. Get some really cool perks. iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Leave a review if you can. If you love the show, leave a review. And thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.